Welcome all, and apologies for the delay to proceedings here. I am Sneaky Penguin, joined by Kaiser. We're actually going to jump straight into the action. We sadly missed the picks and bans phase, and we're going to get straight into some action. But we will have picks and bans for the preceding games to come. This is the semi-finals of the Glorious Smite League, and we have VHS here against Koomin and Zoomin. Nick, there's a lot to unpack here. What do you make of these two teams facing off straight off the bat?
There is a lot to unpack, and I want to talk specifically about this Cabrakan that Lagosaurus Rex is piloting. You can see it on screen right here. This is a character that people will ban away from you 9 times out of 10. And we get the luxury of seeing that one game out of 10 where this Cabrakan is actually available and picked up. And what a dominant force it has been, typically in the solo lane, but in the support role, I mean, it just punches the ground. It does a whole bunch of damage. It's very good at caging in these immobile characters like this Vulcan, like this AMC, that they don't have a good way to escape that cage. This is a very scary pick if you're Koomin and Zoomin, because this is something that can definitely spell your end if you're not careful how you play around it.
Yeah, Cabrakan definitely seen some love. That Manticore spike that's so popular right now is something that he can elect to pick up and drop some big damage. And I mean, well, he's playing Fat Loki. He understands the assignment. They got the Loki and the Fat Loki do
Yeah, that's true.
VHS, so they've got the wombo combo that gets extra style points. So yeah, definitely a very strong pickup. But speaking of other strong pickups, we also see a Vulcan here. He recently got a buff here in the mid lane role, and I think this is something we've seen a decent amount of play. And just what about those extra buffs that is it that brings him back to the forefront?
Well, it's specifically the fact that he no longer gets crippled out of his backfire is a lot of what brought him back in. That's usually the way that people played around this pick, is you pick something like you've got your King Arthur, your Ardeo, your Ares, your Cupid, all of these things that people actually don't mind picking that can just prevent this character from having A, his main damage output, and B, his main safety tool. And once you have that available no matter what, you're looking a whole lot better.
Well, someone who's not looking a whole lot better is the dual lane of VHS. They've been put to the sword pretty early on. They got beat pretty quickly to lane here by Zoomin. Ordered Mess holding that pull to pull the Cabrakan out of his tremors has uh, garnered some superiority here on the dual lane side, and this is something teams do like to have, right? I mean, we've seen the
Yep.
scepter come back. It was taken away from the obelisk, and now it's been shifted to this harpy. Is this somewhere you can actually look to get a lead these days? Is it something you can look to pressure out? Is this dual lane side?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see Koomin and Zoomin do exactly that here. They're actually going to try to fight back VHS now that they have that scepter you were talking about, but that's really what this grants you right now, is so much superiority in this dual lane. It used to be a lot of neutral farming. There's not a whole lot of contest or fight that happens, but you can get active pretty early here now that there's actual advantage to be gained from investing resources into this side of the map. And I mean, even with VHS having an additional member here, Slither was on the scenery with this Loki. Because of the high health bars, because of the scepter, it's basically another half man in these combats. It'll do a decent amount of damage and give you a whole bunch of sustain. You don't really want to fight into this. You really have to be very respectful and very careful around this Koomin and Zoomin dual lane now that they have this additional buff. So you're right to ask, and you're absolutely right to assume that this is something that you can willingly and understandably invest your time and resources into.
Looks like it's actually paying pretty good dividends if we just take a look across the map. It's been a pretty slow start, not too much action, little pockets of plays going around, some damage being traded out, but this has accumulated almost a 900 to 1,000 gold lead for
A
Zoomin.
lot.
That's pretty significant at 4 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
That's nothing to slouch at, and that's when we're looking at these item finishes, right? And is that something? Well, hang on, I'm gonna have to hold that thought because Slither's gonna get a gank on. Stun is good. Assassinate down. Sped's gonna be the first blood of the map. Slither picking that one up, and you don't expect a Loki to be getting those first bloods in the game.
Yeah, not over a Raven, who, by the way, picked into this Poseidon. That's always a
Yeah.
feels bad. That's literally the worst thing you can possibly see against you if you pick this Poseidon, because he can overhead kick that Kraken. We'll keep an eye on that. But going back over to the solo lane, like you said, Slither not typically one you'd expect to get involved this early, especially not earlier than Yeet on Denene, which, by the way, fantastic name on
Mhm,
this
mhm.
Raven. I think that we're a little shocked to see that he managed to find value this early on, and that's really just sped using the ult a little bit prematurely.
Yeah, he was a little bit aggressive on the tower line and made to pay for his transgressions. And something we didn't actually touch on, we've said his name. We've said the fact that there is a Loki and a fat Loki.
Yes,
This man's name is literally Slither. That is
that
the
is true.
T2 Loki skin, and he
But
is
is he
playing the
the
T2.
T2
This is
Loki skin?
fantastic.
But does he have the skin to match it? That's the big
Yes,
question
I
here.
think he
Production,
is,
we can
right? He's
zoom in.
green.
That's
That's Slither
like, how do you
Loki.
not ban this guy out? Like, I think that's a pretty easy thing to detect that, wow, this guy's gonna go for his namesake pick, and they let him have it. That's a misplay. Easy.
They've got two slithers, right? Though they got the the fat Loki. Kabrakan is also a slither. They're slither cubed. There's three of them. There's Slither the name, the Loki, and the Kabrakan. This is fantastic. What a wonderful pickup for VHS. I hope to see them flurry in this game. And well, flurrying away is this gold lead. We mentioned it was almost 1,000 gold. That first blood has stabilized things
Yep.
just a little bit. Well, hang on.
Ooh.
Jumping in, low mana bar is Albi. Suns are good. Beads forced out. There's
Uh-oh.
no jump to chase him down. Will he
Ricochet?
escape? Ricochet is the last
Geometry?
piece
Hang on.
missing. And he failed
Aw.
his class, sadly, and it may just cost him his life. Nene is on the scene. Jump is up again, and that will be all but that. But very lucky for Albi there. I feel like he was fortunate to escape with his life.
Yeah, fortunate is maybe understating it because Albie needs to just straight up not be standing right there when you have no mana against this Hui. Hui is so strong at just all inning specifically his lane opponent. I think that he's one of the best boxing gods. You see a lot of this character in duel, and that's because there's not a whole lot you can do if he just jumps on you and ults you.
And jumping back into the solo lane and jumping out is
Uh-oh.
Slither. He's paid a lot of attention over on this side. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, Hui wants to get in on the left side, but we've seen decent pressure so far come out from Zoomin. They've managed to secure that side of the map. So why not turn your attention with the Loki onto the other side, try and get a win elsewhere? As it looks as though Stinger
no.
off the mark, jumps over it. Very good jump, but the ricochet just gonna go wayward. So we're not gonna see too many more sparks coming out, but we may over these mid camps for now. But it doesn't look to be anything doing. So back to a pretty stable game state, and I feel like this is to be expected, right? These two teams looking at the god picks. There's a lot of safety, there's a lot of kill potential, but there's no particular emphasis for an early game one way or the other. Maybe the Raven over the Loki, but outside of that, this feels pretty even.
And now even is not what is had here in the mid lane. Not sure where I'm going with that, but not sure where this Vulcan's going either. He actually gets a good shell there. He's still in this
Oh
Kraken ult, and
no.
finally the Kraken will take him down.
Yeah, he's caged in with the Kraken, and that will make him fall. Slither also falls. No assassinators. He used that to escape in solo. So Nene picks up a 1-for-1. So all things considered, not too bad mid laner for jungle, and this opens up a potential red buff invade. Ordered is looking to start this one up. Raven on the scenery, Nene looking to secure, hopefully, no ADCs rotating in for this one, so it will be stolen away by the Chaos side of Zoomin, and now the task is to get on out, and with that dash, they will take the spoils of their war.
Yeah, and they got the stuff after the stuff, and that's so important in Smite right now, where you can get these kills and it just doesn't feel particularly meaningful unless you can get something else that's big off the back of it. I think that if we see that trade just go 1-for-1 and zoom and just back up, this is a completely different map state. But because they got that red buff invade, it gives you a little bit of a gold denial onto VHS. It also gives you a little bit in your own coffers. Not to mention the fact that pressure and momentum are very real in Smite, and they've definitely got it now.
Yeah, they've definitely got the wind in their sails, getting that gold lead back up again. Back to 1,000 gold. We're just kind of teetering. I'm going to stop talking about it because it goes back
Yeah.
and it goes forth. But hang on, something that's going forth is Zeus forcing out the beads from Chiron here, or Kieran. I'm not quite sure how his name's said, so we'll say Kieran because
Okay.
it looks like it's supposed to be a
Yeah,
Kieran.
sure.
Yeah, forcing out the beads. This is a big deal. Slither with the Loki, he ulted in there, didn't quite find what he was looking for. Notably, I mean, he can backfire out the cripple of the assassinate now, but
Very true.
did finally get the beads. Did Zeus? So very good pickup onto his Vulcan. Hopefully, maybe we'll see a little bit more plays coming around the mid lane.
Yeah, and speaking of things that get crippled, this tier is very interesting in this spot because it's not usually one that I think of in the forefront of the solo lane meta right now. I think that you're typically looking at things like this King Arthur, this Cucullin, you got a couple of assassins you can play over there, but tier kind of has fallen out of favor, but Zeus has made a very good job up until this point of just farming out his lane, invading back camps. That's where he was before that gank started in the middle lane, and it's very important in my eyes to actually rotate this character out and find purchase on other parts of the map. I think that you kind of get stuck in this mentality of, well, I'm immortal in lane and I can farm for free. Why would I not do that? But you don't really see value unless you bring your pressure elsewhere. And forcing the beads off of this Vulcan, allowing them to have a target for this Kabrakan, for this Loki, that gives you something to actually play around. And then you can start to fight your way back into this game because they are a little bit behind. I mean, we said we weren't going to talk about it, but it's the narrative flow of things that we at least bring it up. And they are definitely in a point where they can continue to fight. I wouldn't suspect that they would just drop the issue right now. They need to go while this Vulcan speeds are down.
Yeah, well, it may not be their chance to take the action because it's actually Kaz who's trying to, or Zat, sorry, who's trying to get away. He can't, the backfire is good, and the Shaker goes in deep just to cut off any retreat. But Zeus has made the rotation back in. Lawbringer is good, but only gets Ordered Mess, and the Ordered Mess is actually for VHS because they've lost 2 members so far. All 5 members actually congregating for this left side jungle. It looks like they want a Gold Fury, and I can't blame them. That was a clean fight in mid.
Yeah, Zeus is here and on the scenery, but no blink. He's got teleport instead. Ult
Uh-oh.
also down. He's just a sitting duck here if he's not careful. He does get CC chain. Health bar
Whoa!
very low. That's a gigantic Fearless. Waves of Deathwalker on that one, but too
Yeah.
little too late. This should be FG.
Yeah, FG. Well, I
Oh,
think they'd like to
GM.
have an
I'm
FG,
sorry,
but this
something
one's
like that.
this one's just gonna be the
I'm
Gold
new,
Fury.
okay?
But yeah, I think that was fair. That was a very Deathwalker-esque kind of fearless. He got huge value. Sadly, no one was on the horizon for VHS to turn up and follow up. But he did get the beads out from Albie, so maybe something for Souls to think about. Maybe something for Slither to think about. His ultimate is back up. Also, that Assassinate may be able to lock down this AMC who's gone relatively unchecked. We saw him
Yep.
get jumped on in that left camp, but since then there has not been all too much to talk about. So maybe we'll see some action turn over there. But I want to go back to your conversation with with Tyr, because you were saying you want to get him out of this lane, and he's
Yes.
been pretty active, and I
Yes.
like that what he's done there, but I can't blame him when he's gone up against Sped with a sovereignty because
It's
that is
very
just, quite
boring.
frankly, NA's finest. They put the Guardians in solo lane, they put the Guardians down in mid. Lagosaurus Rex found on his own. And they just put the tankiest things they can in solo that can't kill and won't kill.
Yeah, but they farm forever, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. We'll see if Zeus can make anything happen on this Pyromancer here. That's a good Fearless.
Yeah, Fearless onto 2 and a Kraken to follow. Ordered Mess is in the grave. Pyromancer did go down, and that did go to the side of Zoomin also, I believe it did.
VHS.
So they've got they have managed to get 2 of the objectives now. This is a good look, but I think we've got to look for more plays right out of this tier. He's been finding the big Fearlesses. He just needs the side of VHS to be there for the follow-up.
I don't know if I agree with that. I actually think that Zeus has done enough to facilitate and create opportunities at this point. Oh my god. Zath, on the other hand, and Slither, this Loki, this Poseidon, need to be following up off of the homework that Zeus has been doing. Because he's been rotating, he's been creating opportunities, like you said. He's forced a beads off of both of these backliners from Zoomin, but we haven't seen a dedication from VHS to capitalize on those resources being down. As soon as you force that cooldown, you have to immediately think to yourself, what can we do to make this kill happen? And I haven't seen that mentality out of VHS yet. They've kind of done all the preliminary work and then haven't been there to reap the benefit. They've just let that cooldown come back up. You can see beads available for this Vulcan right now, beads about to come back up for AMC, and they didn't get anything off of either one of those. So it has to be more coordinated play with the dive of VHS, with this Kabrakan, with this Loki, with this Poseidon. You've got to put the pieces together. They're all there. You just got to assemble them.
Yeah, and I think we're reaching that critical mass point though, right? We're at 15 minutes now where the fights become a little bit heavier, the deaths mean a little bit more. What you can get following a kill is a little bit more impactful than what it was, say 5, 7, 8 minutes ago, where it's maybe just an invade of a buff. We're looking at some serious objectives or maybe some towers that could be taken down, not just these great scorpions that pretty much get done on cooldown these days.
Right.
So I think there is glimmers of hope here for VHS. I won't say glimmers, that's a little bit mean, but there is obviously puzzle pieces being put together. They just need to say, as you mentioned, they just need to finally put it into a complete thing. And well, it's got to be sooner rather than later. We've got the two main objectives other than Fire Giant coming back up relatively soon, right? We've got Gold Fury in a couple of minutes. It's going to be a minute and 20 actually. So I would look to see, I would have thought, right, the tier making the rotation for that one, and this is when we could see the big kind of swing point for the game.
Yeah, and here the Zeus is going for what appears to be a relic dagger, maybe a wing blade that'll give him a lot more mobility and utility in these fights. So I think that you're absolutely right. This is about the point where if you're VHS, you realize things aren't going good. We need to make a change. What are we doing wrong? And that's where you have to recognize that the coordination just isn't there. But it is absolutely not too late to clean up. This is a 2,000 gold lead, maybe 3,000, depending on wave to wave. And that is not hugely impactful at 16 minutes. I think that if we're 5, maybe 7 minutes ago, that's gigantic. You don't fight back into that. But right now, it almost feels like nothing. So you need to be thinking, if you're VHS, what are we doing to defend this Oni Fury that presumably Zoomin is going to be going for?
Yeah, well, it looks like Zoomin wants to go for Zeus. They'll force his ultimate out, but he's going to be happily
No
getting
rival.
away from that one. But I feel like there's a little bit of a free gank, though. I know the Gold Fury is up, but VHS seem to be very aware. They've set up early. They got the oracles right. They got the wards,
Hmm.
and the Gold Fury is now spawning any second now. Ping's coming out onto the left side. Albi is looking to maybe be the center of attention. Wards being fought over. We're starting to finally see some congregation happen. The Ravens looming. They want to make something happen, but it's just not quite happening yet. Who needs to get on the front foot? Do VHS really need this first initiation, or can they just wait? And well, Zeus is the first one here. He's gone fearlessing in, but there's nothing doing just yet. All 10 members of the map are here. Good fearless and immunity out from ordered mess. The Earthshaker
Oh,
is good.
wow.
Kraken's massive. Also, Sped is very, very low. He's going to be forced to retreat, as is Slither. Still in the back line is Zeus, but it's Albi going to pick up the first kill of the game onto Souls. That's the Hunter taking down the Hunter, and Kabrak and Lagosaurus Rex trying to find his way out, but it looks a little bit too little, too late. Whirlpool's good for now, and a bead's actually going to be used to try and persevere through. He will get it. That is a 3-for-0. Fantastic fight from Zoomin.
Well, you were shading toward asking me who needs to go in first, and I was going to say VHS. You need to look for a blink play with tier and then back up and reset off of that. But just maybe a little overcommitment from VHS there. They step a little too far forward and they tried to blow up Sped. I thought for sure he was going down when he got that Poseidon ult on him that took almost all of his health in one go. But once he manages to live through that fight and you're VHS and you've blown all those resources, all that time into him, you are at a point where you need to back up and start to reselect what you're doing in this fight, because Zoomin just surged forward and
Uh-oh.
there wasn't a whole lot that could be done. I mean, they took the fight after the fight and they just steamrolled what was left of VHS. I don't think that Albi even got looked at by a jungler that fight. Slither seemed to have gotten caught by some kind of secondary damage that wasn't intended for him. You need to be much more careful, especially on a character that can be invisible and can be stealthy, can be difficult to trap in. You need to be careful about what abilities you're getting hit by, especially if they're not intended for you.
Yeah, definitely gonna have to be a little bit more careful. is the mid lane, and how Kieran forced Beads and Aegis off the back of that Kraken and Cage from Lagosaurus Rex and Zats. So good work there from the two in mid. That opens up a little bit of an opportunity to fight around this Fire Giant, which I was gonna say is looking pretty tough because that 2,000 to 3,000 gold lead's now widened into a 5,000 gold lead, right? So we're looking at items being finished. There was Oni waves pushing. We've got a Trebuchet pushing. So a little bit trickier to fight. Well, it's going to be even trickier to fight if you're not going to have your mid laner here. If Volcanolt comes in over the
Oh my
top,
God.
Earthshaker is good, doesn't take him down, and now the T1 tower is going to be likely to fall as all the members of VHS are pushed back. I thought we're going to see some trouble for Zoomin, but it's more trouble for VHS.
Yeah, that Volcanolt almost one-shot Zat, so he has to go back to Fountain. It's basically just Zeus here playing defense. He's got a little bit of help coming from the boys.
Oh,
That's a good Fearless to bring Ordered Mess back in, but he doesn't get the kill.
Yeah, Blink re-engagement from Spared. He's gone and used the Mortal Spear and Pain. He's taken one up, and Slither's taken down by Nene. So that's another, well, that's the first kill, actually. The others were just TKOs. Good. Cage is going to pull him in. Whirlpool's good. Kraken's good. That one's back up and taken down as Sped. So it's a 1-for-1 jungle for Solo. I don't think you're too unhappy if you're zooming, though, because Albie, he just took his happy self off to left and took a T2.
Yeah, that level 19 ADC just got a tier 2 tower for free and is still hunting for this Phoenix. He's got Yeet on Nene hanging out in the jungle, making sure that nobody can take too aggressive pathing. They're just going to chase out. They want this Phoenix.
Yeah, they want to press the issue, and with Poseidon in right lane for VHS, I'm not sure they're going to particularly find too much. Albie being chased down now. The stun is just off the mark.
Wow.
How on earth is he getting out there? The Hive's doing the Lord's work to get him away. I feel like they've got to count their lucky stars there that Poseidon went into right lane. I'm surprised they didn't just put everything to chase down Albie.
Yeah, that was in my head. Like, my headcanon there was everyone is going to fight over Albie in the jungle, or everyone's going to forget he's there and the Phoenix goes down. But I didn't at all foresee that no one even takes a spill or loses HP in that combat. That's kind of crazy. Credit, I guess, to AMC on these Hives. And now 6,000 gold in the lead. You don't get the Phoenix, but you're now able to reset, look for more neutral objectives. I think that with this tier 1 tower down in the mid, you've got both towers down on the left-hand side of the map. That does open up the opportunity for, especially with this lead that you have for Zoomin, the ability to pull a Fire Giant. This isn't a straight pull kind of contest, though. You don't get to just burst this down and rely on Earthshaker, because obviously Kraken has some damage of its own. You have to fight against this VHS roster when they step up, so it's not a free pull by any stretch of the imagination, but if I'm Zoomin, I think that that's where I'm starting to direct my attention to, but they actually seem to be a lot more interested in just setting up for this next Primal Fury.
Yeah, and I can't blame them. 7,000 is a significant gold lead at 22 minutes, but there are decent items finished on the side of VHS. There is still that threat potential. We saw it there in mid onto Sped. He did get absolutely exploded off the back of a Kraken, so there's definitely still some things to be concerned about. So maybe just trying to finish these starter items, level 20 now for the AMC, and we got a couple of members just around the corner. And well, speaking of just around the corner, Zoomin are just around the corner, and they're going to take down Zeus, first casualty of the fight, beating away as Albie deep onto the other side of the jungle. Kieran picks up Slither somewhere in the backside of things, and it looks like Soul is going to use his beads just to get away for now, but I don't think that's going to do you any good, buddy. Sons are there just in ceremony. 3 members down now for VHS. Will it be 4? Lagosaurus Rex for sure. He falls, and that's the T2 tower. No Fire Giant needed. I think they're just going to go in for the Phoenix without.
Yeah, they're doing not very great damage to this tower,
no,
though.
Maybe
without
not.
the minion wave. I mean, you might want to reconsider just a little bit. I think that you may be back up here, but they have a different idea in mind. They're going for this bird.
Yeah, they want the bird, and it's just Zats. He does have the Kraken, so someone has to be careful if he can get in, but with no way in, with team members allowing, he's just going to have to let this one fall. A couple of wayward strides. A Kraken is good. Actually, stuns out too. Blink, ultimate lawless is the Zeus. He's coming in onto the back end. Very low health bars. No FG sustain of note, right? We don't have that one on our back, so do have to be careful, but Albie's got plenty of damage to push back this tier. So mid Phoenix down, and this does open up. I mean, we've got all 3 objectives open now.
True.
Very precarious spot for VHS. Where do you turn your attention to for Zoomin? It looks like this Primal Fury.
Yeah, Primal Fury is going to be the call here, and it looks like VHS understanding that are going to try to grab a pyro of their own. Speds is, here, but he's got like 300 health, call it 500 with that shield. You can't really contest with that kind of force, and actually, I don't know if VHS realizes they have a very small chance to pull this fire now.
Yeah, it looks like they don't quite understand that Gold Fury was dropped. They didn't even pick that one up. They dropped it, I think maybe Sped making that call out. Hey, there are members around this Pyromancer. You might want to get those health bars up and turn up here because we are in a very real situation of possibly losing the big objective and maybe the smart play. We don't want to throw away this lead with accumulated 9,000 now when we can just take control of the fight. And, well, they're going to take control. They're pulling the Fire Giant.
Yeah, they're going to go ahead and grab this one, or at least attempt to. All of VHS is here in force. This is not going to be easy.
Yeah, Stinger off the mark, so Zeus is good for now on the tier. Doesn't get pulled back in, so we've evaded punishment for now. Fire Giant did get down to half health, but Zeus is all alone. Mantle of Discord will save him for the time being. There's 4 members behind you, though, Zoomin. You got to be careful.
Where are they going?
And they just can't find the initiation that they're looking for. They're all on separate pages. And someone who isn't on a separate page is Zoomin. They've gone deep into the back line. It is going to be Nene picking up the first. He takes down the Hunter Souls. And Zeus very low, punch down by Nene. He takes the second of the game and Slither found all on an island of his own. Is the Invis going to get him on out? It looks like they know for now where he is. Blink is good for the time being, but there is the cutoff of Nene. He's forced into the assassination just to get out. Root off the mark, as is the slow, and that's criminal. Slither's gonna find his way out, but I don't think they're gonna find this Fire Giant. VHS. Well,
they got Kraken.
Yeah, they do have Kraken, and Lagosaurus Rex is trying to buy some time, but no, I think that's Fire Giant falling down now, as is Lagosaurus Rex.
Yeah, he's gonna die for the transgressions of attempting to step up and defend that one. What a sad fight if you're a VHS fan there, because that looked like they had the re-engage, but for whatever reason, everyone on Zoomin was on the right side of the map, and VHS just went behind them and didn't attack them. I mean, they had positioning for like a weird like gank from behind style fight, but clearly weren't confident in just jumping in head first. I think we've seen a lot of Zoomin just roll over in these fights onto VHS, so perhaps a good idea not to just jump in just because they're in front of you. But at that point, why are you positioning like that? Because that put your entire backline just to a point where they can't find a place in that fight. I don't think that Souls even got to return damage in that one before he ended up falling just because of where he was standing. You got to be more careful than that.
Well, speaking of more careful, Sliver has to. Well, hang on, Albie has to as well. His beads were forced out. A little gank opportunity was set up there on the red buff, almost pulled off, but a couple of things being changed out. But I think that one goes to VHS. They managed to get the beads off of Albie in just exchange for the Loki ultimate. So good win there to maybe fight around this this Gold Fury. Is Fire Giant going to be falling off their waist in the next horizon? Maybe not too soon, actually. I thought it was a lot sooner to be coming off, but no, they're just getting this one started up. But you're right, they had this great pincer movement in on the Fire Giant pit. They had 4 members behind, but they just couldn't find the opportunities.
No shot.
Just steal it away with a whirlpool. That's criminal, but what is going to be criminal is the war cry Montes has. He's going to be taking down Beads and Aegis, only good for so long before Albie picks him up, and that's going to make this Phoenix defense a whole lot harder.
I just don't love that play because you got it, now what? Like, you're for sure dying there if you're Zats. Like, there is a 100% certainty that you perish for trying that. And now the Phoenix defense, like you said, this is not going to be easy.
No, and when you start with a blink cage like that, it doesn't make it any easier, and it's the assassination off the mark shell just to get the members out of there, and now they'll turn their attention to the Phoenix. Will zoom in. Kieran's going to take down Lagosaurus, and it's going to be Souls taken down, Slither taken down by Kieran, this Vulcan gun 7-1-0, and I think that's going to be attention to the Titan. Zeus, you've been putting up heroics living for this long, but buddy, I don't think you can put up against all 5 members with Fire Giant. Titan getting to half health, bounce last round is this tier. Titan getting ever lower, and they want a quick kill before the end. And
Oh my God.
Shaker taking down a 2-for-1. Kieran is just going huge in this game.
Yes, some unexpected fireworks at the end there. I don't
Mm.
know. Shout out my boy Zats, fellow chair 2 on the game, on the cast, but I just don't know about that call to solo contest that Fury on the left-hand side of the map against this Fire Giant team into a 11,000, maybe 12,000 gold lead. I do think that there were things up until that point that caused that game to be balanced on a knife's edge. And I don't mean win or lose, I mean lose or lose right now. And I think that that's stepping up there and trying to steal that Fury, which credit, he got the Fury. But that was
Yep.
certainly the play that made it so that that fight was next to unwinnable for this chaos, or excuse me, this order team. They had no tools left available to them. Zats was the overwhelming majority of their damage in that one. I don't think that Slither past like the 5-minute mark really showed up as much as we were hoping based on the start that he got. And then what can be said about Souls, who just didn't find a place to stand in any of these fights? No matter where he was, it felt like all of the the Koomin and Zoomin team was just constantly ready to go on him. He never got to just plant his feet and throw out some auto attacks. So Zats, you got to be living through that one, buddy. I don't think that's your call.
Yeah, real tough pill to swallow, but I think the writing was kind of on the wall leading up to that point. Zoomin had established a significant lead. They'd gotten the Fire Giant, they had the mid-bird week, so maybe a little bit of tilt coming up, but this is a best of 3, so they have the opportunity to fight back. It's not all said and done here for VHS. We'll throw it to a quick break to make sure we have everything set in place for picks and bans before game number 2. But don't go anywhere, because hopefully we'll have this one set up real soon.
Back on the smart grind in my mind, rapidly declining. For this shit, we watching the gallery of finals. I got my best placed on, spaced out. JBL about to get chased out, yeah. JBL, more like just big L's. Couldn't even be marked as rivals, just spaced out on a different level. Ran it through the brackets like it was a walk in the park. We watching the revenge arc of the spaced out squad. Best of 5, now I think it's over in 3. Spaced out, running it down, throwing JBL around. Fuck them clowns, no chance without a tear to let him jump in the backpack. They ain't about to backtrack. Toe putter, yeah. Toe putter, yeah. You'll be able to suit up pudding, yeah. Toe putter, yeah. Sources tell me that JBL a bunch of crap. Babies, don't ask me where I got it from. But I agree, sitting here with a bottle of rum, getting hammered while recording this song. Fuck man, I need to find something else to do. GSL champions, GSL champions, yeah, yeah, yeah. Alright, we packing you D, hope those stems will do you good. Try hiding in alley cause you can't go pro. Leaving the instant you can't win gems no more. Crime all you fucking rejects, hamburger stands over all of your cringe ass virgin teams. I can feel the sweat through the monitor every time you play. Go take a bath. We back on the smart grind in my mind, rapidly declining. For this shit we watching the gallery of finals. I got my best placed on, spaced out. JBL about to get chased out, yeah. JBL more like just big L's. Couldn't even be marked as rivals, just spaced out on a different level. Ran it through the brackets like it was a walk in the park. We watching the revenge arc of the spaced out squad. Toe putter, yeah. Toe putter, yeah. You'll be able to suit up pudding, yeah. Toe putter, yeah.
My hands steady, I feel ready, but my legs heavy, I don't get it. How come I haven't hit it already? Still working, I'm still learning, I'm still searching, finally earning something, finally turning something called a profit. If I hear you talking shit, don't get caught in it. I'll be popping off and hit your ass, dropping all your shit. Yeah, I promise this, I got promises. You ain't stopping this, cross my shit, you'll be knocked unconscious, bitch. That's the consequence, I got this, I will not quit. Man, I'm on it, honest. I'm gonna launch quick, then I'm gone. It's just a matter of time before I'm over the climb and moving under my prime. Just quit my 9 to 5, I'm rocking, and they watching, cause it's shocking. Dropping all these top 10 songs, no stopping. It's time to live my life, it's time to live my die. Wish I could slow down time and just enjoy the climb. And I'm the one to get it, bro. I swear to God I get it, bro. So don't just let me get it. Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna get it, yeah. Yeah, I'm the one to get it, bro. I swear to God I'll get it, bro. Hey, I ain't never giving up. Yeah, I never give up. I got this, man, I got it. I will not quit, I'm on it. Never rock it. Got the block lit, I'm toxic. Spitting logic, make them nauseous. Honest, can I stop this? Never cautious, drop it. I'm the hottest. Knock, knock, bitch, watch it. I'm the fucking king of rock, bitch. Profit, spitting hot shit. I'm topic, chronic. I think I'm motherfucking lost it. Back, matter of fact, making racks where it's at. Had my back to the mat, not an act, that's a fact. We attack in a pack, no react, no react. Think I'm black, off the jack. While I rap, not the snap, throw a jab, give a crap. We're advanced, I'm the man. Got a plan better than most brands. Goddamn, I'm a rhyme till I die. Never lie, that's a lie. I don't try, I defy. Yes and nah, that I'm right, yeah. Like a student though, working on a movement, yeah, I'll do it cause I'm in the zone. And you know that I'm ready for the shows. How it goes, I don't know, but I'm waiting till I'm chose. Front row, here I go. All these people wanna know what you think of them lately. Do you really love me or do you really hate me? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you grade me? All this social media has got me going crazy lately. Everything's inflated, mainly everyone's invaded. Privacy is naked, man, I really hate it. God, I really hate it. I just wanna make it through all this fake shit. Living in the real life, living for some real times. Talk about the real climb, passionate in real rhymes. Steal time back from my 9 to 5, taking back my fucking life. I just wanna feel alive. And I'm the one to get it, bro. I swear to God I get it, bro. So don't just let me get it. Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna get it, yeah. Yeah, I'm the one to get it, bro. I swear to God I'll get it, bro. Hey, I ain't never giving up. Yeah, I never give up. Fake it till I make it. Motherfucking take it back from these haters. Playing tracks for the traitors. Got the passion in depths when it happens. Factions take actions, drafting their captains. It's happening. I'm raising my status, facing the madness. I'm out gaining traction, avoid the distractions. I'm snapping, no captions, attracting reactions, adapting, attacking, commanding the masses. I'm practicing habits. I don't fucking ask bitch. I just fucking grab it. I am never static, massively active, expanding, backslid, planning to have it. So I will go capture it and I'ma stay after it. I'm gonna fucking master it. Put them on blast, kid. They will never last, kid. Don't be so dramatic. Not my demographic. This shit is democratic. They phone effects, yeah, bitch.
Thank you for your patience. We are back here with, well, soon to be game number 2, but we're going to take a quick look at the bracket as the other side of the semifinals went down. Pingdiff 2-0ing VTuber Paradise. So the winner of this set will be going against Pingdiff in the final with that adorable little Kronos avatar, which quite frankly I love.
Yeah,
that's my favorite skin. It's got the
shout out
laggiest
fact
little
that
voice
Ping
pack.
Diff haven't dropped a game yet either. 2-0, 2-0 quarterfinals and semifinals. Koomin and Zoomin looking to do much the same here with this 1-0 lead that they've now found for themselves over VHS. And VHS, we're looking to fight back in. We're getting scrappy now.
Yeah, and I think they have the potential to do so, right? It wasn't a complete lost cause in game number 1. They had moments of fighting back. They definitely looked strong in pockets. They just needed to kind of piece those things together, maybe play around the tier a little bit more or transition elsewhere. But we have picks and bans, which is quite frankly the most exciting thing. And we're not even going to cast game number 2. It's just picks and bans. And then we'll go to game number 3, picks and bans. But no, we finally see some bans come in. Through here on the screen, we've got Kepri being singled out as the first one. Guardians and Assassins, I believe, are the 2 things on most people's minds.
You're looking to ban out as many Guardians as possible. Like you said, you've got your Kepri, your Yamoja, your Ganesh, your Kabrakan. All of these are very strong, very bannable right now. Although typically, at least a couple of them you leave open to grab. We saw the Kabrakan manage to get through, but typically that's one that goes away. And then your Ganesh, your Yamoja, stuff like that is typically picked up instead. Meanwhile, Assassins, people do not want to play against specifically Daji. We see a lot of Daji bans. And then Naja right now. If you've played ranked, if you've seen, smelled, or heard of ranked, you've heard that Naja is tearing up the scene right now. And you definitely want to either be able to scoop that one up for yourself or take it away in the ban phase.
Yeah, Naja recently receiving those buffs, right, to the Sash and to the ultimate, so plenty more damage coming from that really frustrating CC of the Sash. Lots of front-loaded damage there, and then some protections when crashing down from the ult, so a little bit of survivability there for the Naja, but also something that we hate to see is a Lancelot, well, I guess you love to see it if it's on your team. That's another one that typically gets banned away. You don't want to see those ones come through if you're on the remaining side. And it is Lancelot banned away is the first pick. Look at it, I just spoke it into existence. Zoomin hate it too.
This guy's good. No, this chair 1 guy, this sneaky penguin N, 2 N's on the end of that one, by the way. This guy's pretty good at what he does. He tends to know. He's got an ear to the meta, and he's very aware that Ganesh is a very strong support right now. And speaking of strong gods, Guan Yu, this solo laner, has been eating people alive over there recently. This is a character that typically you think of being good mid to late game, but now that we're at a spot where Guan Yu can be a real lane bully, he is prominent in all 3 stages of the game, and I think that it's very smart to go ahead and take that one away or fish for it for yourself. But clearly, VHS, they don't want to give that one over to Zeus. They maybe want to get him on something a little bit more mobile, a little bit more early active, so instead going to ban that one out.
Well, you gave me plenty of kudos, but I want to give you some. Daji and Naja are also banned out.
Well, would you look at that?
Well, would you just take a look? 3 Assassins banned out from Zoomin. They didn't want to deal with any of this nonsense. Pre-buff, new god tech, or whatever. They're not going to deal with it. And it's VHS who don't want to deal with Albi back on the AMC. He was running pretty rampant, went pretty unchecked there in game number 1. But that does leave the likes of Yamoja open. And I've said this before. This is a god that has routinely been nerfed without being buffed and just gets nerfed more and more. What is it exactly that makes us so frustrating in the competitive scene?
Well, she's very self-sufficient, and she can kind of roam around the map, and she's not ever in particularly much danger. I think that her weird niche mobility of that hoop makes it so difficult to lock this character down unless you get walls or something that can physically keep her in one spot. If she's caught out of position, she will just send herself on her merry way, and there's not a whole lot you can do. Plus, the healing that she gives out, that shielding, especially with the Faveless hoops that's so prominent in the meta right now, people think that's an incredible item, and I'd have to agree. Plus, on addition to that, the fact that her River's Rebuke ultimate that gives her basically a Chronos pendant tick every so often for her Omi, and will trap people in, and will stagger them, and will slow them, and will cut people off. This character's a little bit bloated, and it has received nothing but nerfs. You're right about that. And it's very well deserving of all of those nerfs, and it makes you wonder just how good this god was before those nerfs even came through.
Yeah, well, something that makes it a little bit easier, right, is when you pair it with something like an Awilix, those hoops bouncing in members, a free little ultimate there for the Awilix, maybe a Kukulkan knockup for the ultimate of Awilix. There's lots of potential to set up for this jungle pick for VHS, but, well, as I rightfully understand, Ganesh being just a god tier support makes his way through for Zoomin. He gets locked in alongside the Ratatoskr, who has actually been seeing a little bit of play and a Ram here for Zoomin. I don't think we've seen this god a whole lot, but it makes some sense, right? You can get up into the sky to save yourself whilst you wait for reinforcements.
Yeah, you can basically just wait out the entire duration of a Yemoja ult. You can also notably cripple that Awilish so that she doesn't actually get you with any of her movement abilities, namely that Feather Step, which is, of course, her main source of damage. Being able to delay that even a little bit is very impactful in that matchup. Plus, you really want something that has a dash against Awilish, because you don't want to be a sitting duck. You don't want an AMC or something like that that can't physically get away from her. You usually want something that has some semblance of safety, and I think that Ram is just a very all-around like B+ tier character. I don't think anyone will ever tell you Ram's great or Ram's terrible. It's really just a solid pick that is almost always going to be good. So it's not anything flashy, but it's certainly something that is very viable right now.
Well, something that is a little bit flashy is this Vulcan pick for Zoomin. They get it again for game number 2, which quite frankly, I think is a little bit ridiculous. How on earth, are they going to let the Vulcan go almost completely unchecked in game number 1? I think he went 8-1-8 as the final score, dropping top damage in lobby, and they let this get through 5 picks from both, bans from both sides, and just let it fall happily to the wayside of Zoomin once more for game number 2. This feels a little bit maybe prideful from VHS to let them have this one.
Yeah, maybe a bit of hubris is, I think, the word that you were fishing for there from VHS to allow him to run this one back. But I do think Vulcan is the absolute poster boy for that category of surely the Vulcan wasn't the problem, right? Like, this is a character that you think he doesn't do anything crazy special, and you want to take something else away instead. They banned out King Arthur and Susanoo, which sound a lot more oppressive, like they would have a lot more impact, and leaving this Vulcan open alongside other mage options like, what if you ban Vulcan and they just pick Discordia, or they just pick Yu Wong? Like, you're not really banning out the level of pick as you are in solo or jungle right now. There's a bunch of good options for mid right now, so just because you take away Vulcan doesn't mean they don't get something equally good or perhaps even better on the back end of it. So maybe smart to leave this one open, but we'll see if he can run it back and make the same level of impact that he had in game number 1.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to replicate game number 1, but something that won't be similar from game number 1, and I don't think any bans could have ever influenced these final 3 lock-ins. We see a Chronos and a Yana, so maybe VHS trying to channel ping diff a little bit here with the Chronos pick and get themselves to the finals, but we see a Chronos and a Yanis as the final 2 lock-ins. Yanis really seen very little gameplay at all this season, and a Chronos also similarly not seen a lot of gameplay. And then an Ao Kwang, what is going into jungle and what is going into solo? Because there's some flexibility, right? Ratatoskr and Alquang, that could kind of be either or.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and call it right here.
Please do.
Alquang is going to be jungle. And I've been wrong about this so many times before because I specifically think that Ratatoskr is a very, very, very good solo laner. But I seem to be the only person that believes that. So I've seen Rat picked alongside like Raven before, for example, and I've said, oh, the Rat is clearly going to be solo and Raven jungle. And I've been wrong about that before. So I'll certainly be willing to be wrong one more time and say that this Alquang is going to be the jungler and this Rat's going into the solo. Clearly, they have to have some pulse on the fact that this god is actually very strong in what he does. But on the other hand, you brought up this Giannis. I think that it's safe to say I don't think we're going to hurt anyone's feelings if I say Giannis is not a great pick right now.
Yeah, he struggles a little bit, right? He doesn't have quite the same. I'm not even sure what it was that happened to him precisely to make him fall out of meta, but he feels a little bit sad. And Giannis is one of those that you want to smile when you're playing, and
Right.
I'm not quite sure he fulfills that same role that he used to. But at least you were right with this Alquang going into the jungle. I thought for certain maybe we'd see him in solo just so that you'd be wrong. But yeah, this Giannis,
that would have been nice. But I
sure.
will contest what you said a little bit there, where you weren't sure what brought this Giannis out of favor. I think a lot of it was actually a change that people tend to look down on and don't put as much value on. The fact that this kill threshold has been increased because every god gets more health, more defense scaling per level. Everybody is a little bit tankier as the game goes on. And that was Giannis's whole bit. You kill one guy very, very quickly, and we'll see Zeus go down very quickly. That's nuts, dude. That's Rat's nuts. You gotta see the Ratatoskr in solo. Put this god in solo.
Yeah, I mean, Ratatoskr's just gotta go in solo. It just makes so much sense. It's guaranteed first blood the second you hit level 2, and
exactly.
Well, maybe see another kill go down here in the duel lane, and it looked like it was gonna be Albie in trouble, but it's not quite. He gets on out of there. But yeah, this Ratatoskr pick, man, you just got to put it in solo. Why do you believe this to be so strong? I mean, you've been playing it a lot in ranks. You've been one-tricking it. And what is it about that god that makes him so strong over there?
His burst is so sneaky early on because people don't typically think of an AoE like tick damage ability to just one-shot you. And that flurry, once you get the double flurry acorn online, you get hit by one of them and you're like, oh, that hurt kind of. And then you get hit by the second one when you have no protections because it doesn't only strip your prots, it steals your protections. The second one you go, wait, that hurts a lot. Wait, I'm dead. Why am I dead? And that's what Ratatoskr introduces to the solo lane, in my opinion, is this just out of nowhere burst on a tank that isn't accustomed to being bursted because stealing prots is so strong.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't steal prots with a Guan Yu because it's banned, what's the next best thing? I guess we'll steal it with a spin on a Ratatoskr, say VHS. And, well, it looks pretty strong so far. A little bit of a change from game number 1, VHS taking control. And, well, look at this. Zeus is very low, and the Blue Buster spawning. Noah Wheelix on the horizon. This should be a clean invade with Nene on the horizon also. Very strong look for VHS over here on the solo lane side. Just going to wait it out for his jungler to get here and guarantee the secure. And, well, hang on. Zeus actually managed to secure his own blue buff. Congrats to him because that did not look to be on.
Yeah, and Sped was pissed about that. Like, my man just dashed into a tier 2 tower because he was so upset about it. Now, it's going to be Nene actually out of position here. But, I mean, if you've got a Giannis as your mid laner, there's not a whole lot that you can really do to lock him down there. You don't have the burst damage, and you don't have the CC to keep him there.
Yeah, Hog is good to secure the purple buff, but will it secure your own life? Lagosaurus Rex just does get away to under the T1, and that right there is why you hold the Hog. I mean, it may not work out in your casuals so much, but at least in a competitive game, holding that Hog can be quite important. And well, thank you for switching around the names because we've been getting the pace of the game just a little bit off.
Yeah, but it is definitely Koomin and Zoomin that are up in the lead here. And
Yeah.
actually, Ratatoskr out of position. But by the way, long range dash, lots of survivability on this pick. The only way you should ever be losing lane as Ratatoskr is if you're trying to trade straight up into these beefy warriors that build this defense build. And you just don't see that from this Cucullin. Zeus has an earring start, which gives you a whole lot of MP5 that converts to HP5 for this Cucullin, but it doesn't give you any survivability.
No, it doesn't give you any sustain for the Cucullin, and well, you're gonna need some sustain if your VHS here constantly under pressure is this dual lane and just getting away under the T1. That's another winning lane for Zoomin over here.
Yes.
But I think you're right to bring attention to the fact that he is difficult to pick up, but surely they have the tools, right? For VHS, there's no beads for this Ratatosk, and you have the perfect initiation
Obi!
for your. Well, he hits it, but it's not going to be enough. But you have the perfect initiation. You just Cucullin ult and a Wheelix ult. Surely that's a kill right there.
Yeah, you'd think that, but it's never that easy. I mean, we do just now see these characters taking over to 5. I think that Zeus has been 5 for a bit, but only just now does Slither get access to that gravity surge ability. So maybe we'll see a little bit of attention shifted toward this solo lane. But VHS, they've been clawing their way back into this one, despite the fact that Sped got that first blood in right lane. Like you said, Cucullin does secure his blue buff. That's incredibly important. We saw purple buff also secured for VHS on left hand side. Lagosaurus Rex grabs that one. Are you laughing about this Giannis's inability to clear mid camp? Is that what's happening right now?
I would never. I was merely laughing that Zeus picked up the Manticore spike and then sold it to buy the sovereignty. He said, I can't live without this thing, man. I need the sovereignty around that ways. I would never sacrilege the Giannis inability to clear more. There was that combo I was talking about. Feather Step is good and taken down, shut down his sped, and well, easy as that, right?
Yeah, I apparently need to have a bad take at some point during this game, and there it is. I was right about the rat being solo. I was wrong about it being that easy to kill him, but they certainly made it look fairly simple to just knock him up and pull him back in. He got the dash away, but I mean, the chase was so good from Slither, who, by the way, once again has made impact in solo lane early on. We saw that in game number 1, and he went a little bit dormant after that point. This is a pick on this Awilish where you have to stay on the gas. You can't let this Ao Kuang get this scaling online. This is a character that we've been seeing a lot more of in the jungle recently. Ao Kuang is very strong late game, but you can kind of run over him in the early game with these physical characters. So keep on the gas if you're Slither, if you're VHS. Put some pressure on this pick. Don't let him get online for free.
And it looks like they understand that assignment too, taking away both Greater Scorpions, and now you have Slither invading those small backs, leaning on this strong Cucullin solo as we look for a little bit more attention over here. Sped under more pressure, and the dash is actually cancelled out. That's going to force him up into the ult. The ultimate's good to immune the knock-up, and while Slither's played that one just about as well as he could, because that could have been disaster.
Yeah, but he definitely immuned that one, and that saved his life, make no mistake. Now Yeet on the Nene a little bit low here. Getting gone on by apparently 2 tanks because the emojis here. I mean, Lagosaurus Rex makes the rotation, says, what's up, boys? Is anything happening? No? All right, I'll head back into the jungle. Yeet on the Nene secures the blue buff for Koomin and Zoomin, so a lot of fireworks, but a whole lot of nothing over here.
Yeah, a whole lot of nothing, but it might be over in the duo lane. I was going to say it's been pretty quiet over here since the supports left, but we're going to trade out some ultimates and trade out some health bars, but that'll be just about that. But I mean, we saw great gameplay come out there in the solo lane. That's not an interaction a lot of people think about, right? With the Awilix, you think, oh, I can't jump around here. If I get knocked up, I can't turn away. Otherwise, I'm gonna get pulled back in. But using the ultimate just to immune the knockup from the Ratatosk, knowing, well, she did have beads, so she could have immuned the Ao Kuang ult, but that's a pretty heads-up play that not a lot of people think about with this god.
Yeah, demonstrating some comfort on the pick, and now actually Yeet on the Nene going in on Souls over here on the left lane, but no harm, no foul here. Will get chased out. This could be trouble.
Yeah, good beads and burnt there from Slither. Gonna force Nene to be a little bit more passive, and that could be a little bit of trouble for Zoomin. I mean, We've said that they need to keep their foot on the gas. They need to take these fights into the jungle, pressure this Alquan pick, and he's going to be a lot less safe without the help of those beads. One crowd control could spell his demise, but it looks like the purple buff's going to get some attention. Hoops are good for now, going to get them away. They secure that one, and they're going to reset as, well, hang on, Giannis finds himself surrounded by 3. He doesn't quite nut, but maybe he does, and that's going to be the obelisk being drained, just 1 for now, and they're going to get their members out. But hang on, actually, no, space and time good, and a fantastic River's Rebuke finds Ordered Mess in a whole kind of mess. He's locked down by 2. That's a huge Mail of Renewal proc, but it's not good enough to save his life. He goes down for his transgressions. You can't just stand on the obelisk like that.
Yeah, and it's just weird how hard they committed to that, knowing how many people from VHS were around. I don't think we're anywhere near at the point where you can just ignore all of an entire team and just stand on that obelisk. That does damage, and so does Albie here in this 1v1. He forces out the Chrono, so will dash away, but that hoop is great to pull him back in.
Yeah, he's pulled back in and up into the sky, hoping Nene makes the rotation in time. The time rift, is it on the mark? It's not. He's going to need one more use of abilities, but oh no, Nene's prioritized the right one here. The no beads support of Yamoja. He really wants that kill, but can't find it. All for nothing, but beads and ultimate forced out from Albie is going to make a little bit of life uncertain over here in the duo lane.
Oh, that's just toxic to stop the backback. Come on, Zats. Like, you gotta be better than that. We gotta be better as a culture than stopping these backs. But now on the right-hand side, Sped once again in trouble. We'll get the ult forced, and that is one thing I will say you can absolutely do against this Ratatosker is if you just camp the brakes off this guy, there's not a whole lot he can do. He has to ult away about 6 or 7, maybe 8, 9, 10 times out of 10. I know I'm counting up a lot there, but I'm not really sure how that goes. One thing for sure, though, is you will not live through that engagement if you're not ulting out. So I think that Sped is very smart to just recognize the danger he's in and get out of there. This is the pick that will get very, very strong as the game progresses. You're really kind of looking at this Koomin and Zoomin right-hand side of the map of Yeet on Nene and Sped on this Ratatosker to keep scaling. So just understanding we don't have to do anything fancy right now. Just get these levels online, get this composition online. I like that they're playing careful.
Yeah, and it reminds me a little bit of when we saw these Apollo picks, right? We saw him being picked up just about everywhere. He was in the jungle for a little bit.
I hated it.
Solo for a little bit. And that was the topic of conversation back then. It was take the attention to the global and where can he go? If you take the fight elsewhere, he can use that global presence to come and influence the map. But if you take the fight to him, it kind of takes away some of that strength of the god. So I like the way VHS have opted to go. And, well, we've seen Greater Scorpion invades. We've seen jungle invades kind of coming out from VHS. But it's kind of all amounted to not a whole lot. 2 kills and next to no gold coming in at 11 minutes. This is a really close game, much closer than game number 1. No real leads being had anywhere on the map. We're looking for a long game, and I think if you're the side of VHS, you maybe want to see that. You've got the Giannis and you've got the Kronos, right?
Yeah, but like I said, the Ao Kwang and the Ratatosker will keep scaling. I don't know, man. Like, this is such a tough call for which one of these teams is going to be better in the late game, and Souls is not looking great right now. That's going to be a whole bunch of damage on him.
Yeah, good stop time is good for now, but 3 snipes from Albie 72. He goes big with the snipes. The Alquan gets stunned out, but it doesn't matter. The ADC has it all under wraps himself. 1, 2, and 3. Down goes Souls. A lovely pick up there, because this one leads to a purple buff. And maybe, just maybe, we might see a Gold Fury pull.
Yeah, Ratatosker has teleported in for this one. Kukulin is not available, and this is the interesting call to run this distraction play on this Giannis. I don't know that they are understanding this is taking place, but Yem's on the scene.
Yeah, here comes the Earthshaker, secures that one, and now the call is just to disengage. Good rotation from Sped. I feel like they should have known, should have VHS, that this was going on. If if a Ratatoskers teleporting into the mid lane, it's kind of like, hey, don't look at the Gold Fury because the solo lane is here in the mid lane. Yeah, a little tactical diversion, but it works out for the side of Zoomin, and I guess that's due to the ease of that kill going down onto Souls. And
Uh-oh.
we see some fireworks going down for Speed. He's actually forced out early, and he doesn't have the ultimate. He's in a world of trouble, getting very low now as a help. And a dash is good for now, but we have Zeus tanking up the tower. This is surely going to be his demise, and it is. Slither picking up kill number 2, and well, it feels like a little bit late, maybe not too late for this pressure over on Solo side. Is this exactly what they need?
Yeah, it's something to get them back in. And I say get them back in. This game is balanced on a knife's
Yeah.
edge right now. So any advantage you can glean on any part of this map is going to be meaningful. After that Gold Fury goes down, the fact that this game's even is just a testament to the fact that this game wasn't really out of hand for either one of these teams to begin with. I mean, all of these gods are at a point where they're starting to come into their own identities. We've got this Ao Kuang, he has a Polynomicon online. We've got this
Oh, no.
Awilish has all the damage in the world and all the pain in the world for this Vulcan will get trapped in the Rivers Rebuke. Both actives forced out, and shockingly enough, this man just walks away.
Yeah, I mean that's 2 ults and 2 relics here forced out for Kieran. He got Rivers Rebuked and Space and Timeout, but that does open up the possibility for this Pyromancer. They got the Shaker out, they got both of his relics, but it's not going to go without contestation. Big knock up onto 2, that pulls in speed. His bees were down, remember. He's getting very loud now, but stunned on the
my
line
God.
of the Ganesho, and up into the sky goes Nene. That is a 2-for-1. Well, the fight has stalled out just a little bit too long, and awkwardly, Nene needs to get on out. Whew. Big fireworks going on around this fire giant.
Yeah, and Nene just straight up killed a guy, just in cold blood. I mean, he jumped in and just one-shot somebody with that Polynomicon, which we haven't seen a whole lot since that, by the way, Albie killed a guy again in left lane. We haven't seen a whole lot of this Polynomicon since it used to proc on that Wildstorm 3 from Ao Kuang, but seeing a little bit more of it recently. I mean, people are understanding that as long as you can weave one auto attack into what you're doing as Ao Kuang, it's so much burst, and he's always felt like he has just shy of the threshold to one-shot somebody without them reacting. And Polynomicon absolutely gets him past that point where you don't even get to react to the damage before you're dead to it. This is a character that late game will communicate about 1700 damage to you in a second and a half. So if your reaction time is at least a little bit dull, you're taking all of that damage and you're basically erased. You have to be very careful of where this Ao Kuang is at any given time and how much damage you're going to have put onto you.
Yeah, and for all the attention we've said they've put onto this solo lane side of the map, it's actually the Ao Kuang who is ahead, and well, Sped's going to be forced into the ult very early on. 30% health is he, and he's not looking to get back and involved, but who are looking to get involved is VHS on this Pyromancer, getting low now at half health. Zats is playing defense on the side, and they're too reluctant to pull this one in. They're looking for the fight instead, but there is an ADC that is in rotation for this fight. I don't think they knew that much, and now all of a sudden the retreat call is on, and knocked up away from the hoop for now, but it's Slither who is now found on the jungle. Massive ultimate from the Kukulkan. He finds a knock up onto 3, but still no members falling. This looks like it might be everything doing Lagosaurus Rex, one more to avoid, but he can't! The Earthshaker takes him down as Zeus falls over in the jungle elsewhere.
Yeah, and Kronos was split pushing during that time, which with a 3-level deficit, you basically have to, but I think VHS just need to be a little bit more disciplined there, recognizing that there's a fed ADC available for Koomin and Zoomin in that fight, and your ADC desperately needs to farm. That's not a fight you're allowed to take if you're VHS, and they tried to force it anyway. They saw one opportunity for an Awilish ult, and they immediately threw all of their training to the wind and said, well, maybe we win it at a disadvantage in a 4v5 against a fed ADC, and you don't win those. I mean, it's just as black and white as that. Now, Fire Giant goes down for Koomin and Zoomin very early on. A 17-minute Fire Giant is incredibly early in the pace of a game. 4,500 gold is a lot, don't get me wrong, but once these towers go down, and that is absolutely the purpose of a Fire Giant this early, is to take these towers, that lead will balloon to twice as much as it is right now, and then VHS are in a peculiar position. So VHS here, you desperately need to cling to as many of these towers as possible without losing anything else.
Yeah, and well, good luck with that when Ordered Mess has picked up an Emperor's Armor. That's such a feels sad. The timing is so perfect for Zoomin. They're like, hey, we just got this opportunistic fight around the Fire Giant, won it pretty convincingly, and hey, well, we got a Fire Giant too. Let's get some of these towers, and Beads burnt down from Sped, so maybe make things a little bit trickier, but I don't think they'll be too concerned. Gold Fury, more notably the Oni Fury, is going to be picked up, and that should actually come into play, right? We're going to see those waves maybe come in time, just in time for these T2s.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden, well, space and time clips too, and Albi's very low, but with Fire Giant sustain, I don't think they're going to be too concerned.
Yeah, Zats did clip a couple of people with that one, like you said, but I don't think that that's really a go button here. That's more of a stall tactic, if nothing else. They absolutely shouldn't be stepping up to this Oni Fury, but they're not putting they're not going down without a fight here. They're definitely putting one up and not letting this go down just for free. But I mean, despite all their best efforts, Koomin and Zoomin can literally just back up, sustain up, and grab this Oni Fury. So we will be seeing these minion waves becoming an impact, like you said. This makes it incredibly difficult to defend all three lanes at once. You don't want to spread out against a Fire Giant team like this because they can absolutely press the issue and just force into wherever you're weakest, and then you lose anyway. So adding the additional difficulty of this Oni Fury makes this siege so much more impactful for the Koomin and Zoomin roster. They have to get an early jump on taking out these Oni waves, or else they're threatening to lose every single tower for free.
Yeah, and they're threatening to lose their ADC here as well. Soul Stun out. Ooh, half health now. Sped's not taking any damage, forcing out the rewind. That's going to be big trouble for him. And it looks as though the members of Zoomin want to get things going. Beads burnt out. Stun's good onto Sped, but here comes the Shaker deep onto 2. Aegis is good for now. And the Meatball backfire will finish that one off. You can just feel the desperation for VHS. They so desperately want to get something going. They know that the issue is on them trying to get things going. Zeus with a knock up onto 3, but well, we saw it in game number 1. It's all for naught. No one around to help him out, wiggling and jiggling around the T2. That's surely got to fall. Gosh, you just feel for VHS. They really want to get something going and they just can't.
Yeah, Raditoska is not here yet. He's teleporting back in. That is a heroic teleport, by the way, as he rejoins the fray here. This could be a left Phoenix siege.
Yeah, the Oni wave is here. Good. Unstable Vortex, and the Sniper's good also onto LB. His Aegis is late, so he will be picked up by Zeus. And an Execute is going down onto Zeus. It is up into the sky, so it's a 1-for-1 for now. Ram for a Kukulkan, but it looks as though Lagosaurus is going to fall also. No Yamoja to help you defend this one, and you've got an Emperor's Armor to deal with if the members do elect to get on into that Phoenix, but they're going to let some Fire Giant sustain come through first and stall this one out just for a little bit longer and maybe actually give this one up because it looks like Ao Kwang has opted to go towards mid and just get that tower instead. Is this a good play, or do you think they could have just muscled their way into this tower?
I don't love the idea of potentially throwing your lead when you don't have an ADC. I think that if Kieran dies, you can maybe make a case for jumping in on that one and trying to grab that bird, but specifically because it's your tower damage that goes down there, I don't think that's a particularly easy siege for you. I think that we need to remember this was a 17-minute Fire Giant, which, by the way, has fallen off and is due to respawn. This was never intended to be a Phoenix Siege Fire Giant. That was just them looking for what else was offered to them, what else was available. And I think they're smart to recognize that it wasn't free, so they just continued to sweep up these towers. They grab that one and right, reset for the Fire Giant. That 4,000 gold lead, remember, that's what it was at the start of that Fire Giant push, turned into an 8,000 gold lead once this tower goes down. That is the advantage that they were pushing for.
Yeah, wholesome little jump party between Kukulkan and Ao Kwang, but what isn't wholesome is the aggression going on to Zats in mid, and Albie sniped just off the mark, so maybe going to keep him alive for now. Long range unstable Vortex, not quite enough. You can see they want to take him down, but they're so nervous of the rotation coming in from Zoomin, and it was coming. Sped was on the branch, but they keep their ADC alive, do Zoomin, and well, they might just look to take this T2 as well, but no ADC to come and bring this damage in. It's just Zeus on his wands, and he can't get it done. Nene takes him down. Gosh, you just got to feel for the solo lane. He really wants to make things happen for VHS, but he can't. There's no one around when he's trying to do it.
Somebody needs to get a handle
Yeah.
on Albie and tell him to show up to these tower sieges because they are not going down particularly quickly without him. So, I mean, they don't get the T2, but they do seem confident enough to back up and grab this Pyromancer. I don't actually know that they've spent the gold that they have in their coffers right now. So this is definitely a reset coming out. We can see 3,000 gold available for 3 people. That is absolutely a full item no matter what class, what item you're building. So they need to get this reset off and make their way back to Fire Giant here. This is the point where this fight gets scary for VHS because now that you've allowed, Koomin and Zoomin to spend this gold and come back with this advantage, this is the point where you have to fight very carefully into this composition. This is a Koomin and Zoomin roster that will lock you in with this Ganesh ult, and if you get caught by one Vulcan ability, you are food for Yeon to Nene, who has, by the way, been 5-0-3, flawless on this Ao Kuang, no deaths either on Kieran, despite all of VHS's best efforts to put him down in game number 2. The magical carries for Koomin and Zoomin certainly showing up, and, you know, Albie's doing his own thing. Like, he's just kind of split pushing wherever he wants to.
I was gonna say, this guy just rolled in with no vision onto a Giannis, no fear in the world. He said, I know no one's around, and if they do come around, well, I'll deal with it with an Aegis. Space and time was good, but immuned out. And this is where we said the strength of the Ram pick comes in. He goes up and immunes himself. A massive Earth Shaker takes down Slither. That's half your health gone, buddy, and you are in the dirt. Kieran taking first blood for this fight, and Sped now solo zoning the solo laner, the ADC, and the mid laner. Stun onto 2, up into the sky is Nene. There goes number 2 for the fight. Lycosaurus Rex, and number 3, Surely Souls. And this looks like all for naught. You're gonna fall. You're gonna lose your T2. You might just lose a Phoenix. And, well, maybe they show mercy and go for the Fire Giant, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, no, they're having a discussion about it. They're congregated in discussing this one, but they look like they want this bird. I think this is probably the right call.
Yeah, the Emperor's armor is going to be good for securing this one up too. Zeus, you got to be careful, buddy. You only have half health. Well, you have no health, actually. You're in the dirt. There goes the right Phoenix, and with 4 members down, but 2 respawning soon, I think this is a smart choice. They turn their attention back to the Fire Giant. But wow, I was going to say, when you were talking about these magical carries, VHS had one of their own, and Zats has been on the mark with these space and times, but someone who's been more on the mark, well, it's got to be Albie with the Aegis. He has immuned so many of these Giannis ults.
If we could get like a counter in the top right of the screen of how many Giannis ults, how many unstable vortexes has been immuned or hang on, steal potential, and that won't end up grabbing anything. But Albie has certainly made his mark on this game, if nothing else, by pressuring out this left-hand side and surviving through just the hatred that Zats has put on him. He clearly understands that Albie is the one that he needs to be taking out with these abilities. That's basically all you get to do as Giannis is you pick a guy and say, hey, you're going to die in these fights no matter where you're standing, no matter what role you're playing. And Albie's done a good job of responding to that and understanding that as long as I stay alive, this is looking a whole lot better for me.
Yeah. Well, someone who might not be looking a whole lot better soon is Souls. He's been found and he seems to know it. He says, I'll take my spell here, buddy. I understand. You got me good. And he's going to rewind. Actually, big rewind to get his health bar back. Stun is good for now. And the reinforcements have actually managed to get back here and get him on out of there. But yes, Albie relatively untouched in this game, and we saw it in game number 1 also. Sped gonna get on out of there. But it's not just Albie. Look at Kieran. 4-0-5. I said, look, this Vulcan is gonna pop off again. You saw it in game 1, and he's done it again in game 2. Nene notably went in on the Raven in game 1. He's doing it again in game 2, showing flexibility. I can play this early game assassin in Raven. I can play this late game mage assassin in Ao Kuang. And I want to give more kudos. I know I took the attention away, but I want to give more to Albie. This guy is a support. He is filling in ADC because of the sub that they have for support. Ordered Mess is the sub, and Albie is the support. So I don't want to hear no slander on support mechanics.
Okay, my man kind of popping off on the ROM then. I can give a PogChamp one time for the boy Albie on this ROM, and now actually contesting this middle Phoenix. He gets pulled in, that's going to be his beats.
Yeah, that's his beads, but he still has his plucky Aegis, which we all know is his secret power. Big knock-up from Kukulkan onto 3 members, but there's no one there. But there is a space in time. He's going to be the first casualty for the fight, but is it enough to give his team the go? Slither is also down. I think he got shut down by the Shaker. Ratataska deep into 3, crashing down at the same time as Nene. Zats will fall. Only 2 members left now of your VHS. No Phoenixes other than the one on the left is still up. Titans now the order of the day. And this feels like game, set, and match if you're Zoomin, but they want a little bit more blood, and they'll find it. 1 and no, not 2. The rewind good for now, but I think we may see some shenanigans in the fountain, and we do, but he's taken down finally. A succinct set here from Zoomin. They 2-0, showing Ping Diff we can 2-0 as well. We may have had to 2-1 in the previous round, but we've got the potential.
Yeah, VHS put on a strong showing in the early stages of both of those games. Make no mistake about that one. They definitely showed up and played good Smite, but I think that just when it came to the transition into these team fight phases, when we started grouping up, we started seeing the coordination, the team play, all of that was there for Koomin and Zoomin throughout both of these games. I mean, if you're going to take a game in 2-0 fashion, it's usually going to be fairly decisive, and I think that that was the case here for this set. Koomin and Zoomin just looked like once it came time to group up and get all the chips on the table, they absolutely had the advantage in both of these games. They just were more coordinated, were more willing to work together, and were more capable of finding something on the back end of these fights. We always talk about get the stuff after the stuff, get the kill, then get the objective. And that was absolutely the mentality that Koomin and Zoomin came in with. So credit to them. They played 2 fantastic games of Smite.
Yeah, they sure did, and they did, like I mentioned, all of that with a support. Somebody in off-row. Koomin and Zoomin looked like the real deal here in this other end of the semifinal. They're going to join up against Ping Diff, wasn't it? They're going to join up against Ping Diff in the final, and I think we've got a pretty hot game on our hands because for all close that it looked, and it did look close, right? VHS showed the moments of knowing what they want to do. They know how to fight back. But Koomin and Zoomin very handedly dealt with all the challenges and transgressions that were put forward their way. What do you need to be looking out for if you're Ping Diff here? Because maybe we see their main roster with Albie going back to support and Plush Rush back into the ADC role. Is there anything to take from this game if you're Ping Diff? Who are you looking to target out? Because I'm thinking it's Kieran on this Vulcan. He looked lights out this set.
Oh man, I mean, if it's me, then knowing that how well Albie played this set, knowing that's not even his main role, and they have a different dude that apparently plays ADC even better than that, I'm gonna be afraid of this duo lane because they kind of pogged off a little bit in that one. I mean, you can always say an ADC is going to carry the game late. That's literally their job, but it's a guy that doesn't even play the role, and he looked very comfortable. He was taking the ego challenges that a lot of ADCs like to do. You really gotta try and test all of your opponents in that dual lane because you might find one you can abuse. Albie was definitely not one of them. He stood up and was a brick wall in that game. So I think that this dual lane for Koomin and Zoomin is what you gotta look out for.
Yeah, looked very, very confident, did Albie, and I'm sure he'll be bringing that into the final on whichever day that will fall. Keep your eyes peeled on the announcement channel for when the final will be played. It is going to be Koomin and Zoomin versus Ping Diff, but that's going to do it for us here on this cast. I was Sneaky Penguin, joined by Kaizo. This was a phenomenal set to cast. This was back and forth. So, yes, keep your eyes peeled to the announcement channel. Sometime next week, we will see that final of Koomin and Zoomin versus Ping Diff. But that is going to be all from us. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time.
Look left, look right, and I come with a hook right. Hook right, hook right. This what the angles look like. Way up, stood high, taking the view when it look right. And oh, it's the good life, whipping the sauce when I cook like. Look left, look right, yeah, yeah. Come with a hook right. Hook right, hook right, hook right. Make all the man them look twice. I'm way up, stood high, but I've been in the field like Suge Knight. And they know this took time. This what a legacy look like. This what a come with a come with a taking the view when it look right. And oh, it's the good life, whipping the